Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. You must be very angry, I would imagine, about the torching of schools. One could possibly understand stealing from schools. But why? What is your understanding as to why someone would actually burn a school down?
Good evening, Sally. Yes, we are very upset because it boggles the mind as to why someone would do something like this. In fact, just before we came on air now, we received a report from the Northwest indicating that 7 schools have since been vandalized there as well. And the MEC has called upon members of the public to come forward with evidence and assist the department to find the culprits who have done that. Yet another unfortunate report coming from another province. So it seems to be a trend, something that is happening right across the country right now. So I think that people are taking advantage of the fact that schools are not operational, so there is no one taking care of the schools. And in fact, we rely on communities to protect the schools, but in this case, it seems it's members of those very communities who are doing the damage.
So some breaking news. Thank you for updating us in the Northwest. We're just hearing from you, as you say, 7 schools vandalised this evening, 5 schools torched. It is a shocking situation, and I'm just wondering, you know, one would expect that during the lockdown, with more police and army on the streets, that schools would be automatically protected, but clearly that is not the case, and criminals are still getting out and about to do their work. What provisions are you going to be able to put in place to look after schools, to make sure we don't have ongoing vandalising of our schools and looting of our schools during the lockdown in particular?
Well, Sally, that's a difficult ask because we've got over 25,000 schools and there's no capacity anywhere in government to protect all those schools, each and every one of them, all the time. That's why we rely on communities where the schools are located to take responsibility for the upkeep and security of those schools. Otherwise, the government would not be able to afford that. And it's a recent phenomenon of this conduct that people seem to be showing these days, that schools are easy targets. It never used to happen before. Members of the public used to protect schools. So right now, all that we can say is to appeal to the law enforcement agencies to prioritize schools for patrols, because clearly there's a disturbing trend that is emerging now where schools are being targeted. Some are being torched, yes, but others are being robbed, and you find that expensive equipment is being taken from the schools and being sold in the streets or wherever. And as a result, the children from those schools are going to suffer. You know, already we are battling, trying to put together a recovery plan. So imagine what will happen when schools reopen. We need to start running, and we're not able to do so in some schools because of the vandalism that has taken place.
It's such a difficult time and such a challenging time for schools in South Africa. We are 2 weeks into the 3-week lockdown. If the lockdown is indeed lifted after 3 weeks, and it is, of course, uncertain, we await to hear from our president on the possibility of that lockdown being extended. But let's say the lockdown is lifted. Will schools definitely be back? Or is there a possibility that the schools might decide to stay off longer?
Well, there are scenarios that we have in our recovery plan. Of course, if the lockdown is lifted, there will be some approach that we have since put together that will have to be used and applied across the country to try assist the school calendar to resume. How that will happen is something that remains to be heard, because the president is still going to direct us in terms of their way forward, and all of our plans really will depend on what the president says.
Yes, of course it does. You spoke about recovery, and possibly one of the reasons we're seeing looting of schools, and it may become more of a problem. The economic situation is not good. We spoke to the World Bank a little earlier, and they are predicting really a desperately difficult situation in sub-Saharan Africa because of COVID-19. Are you concerned about the ability of parents to pay their school fees for the rest of the year?
Well, as for school fees, we are advising parents to continue to pay school fees because that's the right thing to do. They have an obligation to continue to pay school fees because the savings that they are paying for will be done at the end of the day. Their learners will be taught, And in terms of the recovery plan that we have, we know that all the children would have learned what they were supposed to have learned this year. And the minister even said so yesterday that she wants the curriculum business for 2020 to be concluded in 2020, whatever happens. And indeed, the teacher unions and SDP associations committed themselves to making that happen. So we know that we've got a commitment from all our stakeholders. So the recovery plan that we have is supported right across the board in the basic education sector. So parents, therefore, have a responsibility to play their part in making sure that they pay for fees. And here we are talking about those parents who have kids in fee-paying schools, because out of our 25,000 schools, about 3,500 or so where fees are paid. So we request that they pay, but if indeed there's a real case where a parent cannot afford, we ask them to communicate with the school and explain that their situation has changed and produce some proof that indeed there is a situation that is beyond their own control, which has resulted in them not being able to meet their obligation.
Fair enough. Mr. Mhlanga, a special note for our matrics this evening. We've got 1 week of lockdown left, but there is a possibility, we have to acknowledge, that it may well be extended. If indeed it is extended, will mid-year matric exams go ahead? Do you have a plan in place to still rescue the matric year if the lockdown is extended?
Yes, at this point we can still rescue it. Remember in 2016, in Wuhan, in Limpopo, the learners there lost about 3 months of not learning or teaching, and we're still able to recover. So based on that experience alone, we are confident that we'll be able to compress the curriculum in such a way that they're able to learn everything that they were supposed to have learned, and be able to revise as well and prepare for the exams. But that will need some gymnastics. We'll need to do some adjustments to make sure that it happens. It includes having to use weekends, long hours, nighttime, early mornings. All of those things will have to be made. And of course, this is the sacrifice that our stakeholders have agreed they are going to be involved in to make sure that it happens. I mean, in Wuhan, during that situation, we saw parents cooking food and bringing it to school in the evening and sitting around the schools, protecting the schools, making sure that there is no disturbance where learning was taking place. So we expect that same kind of camaraderie to come through so that our learners can benefit from every plan that we have put in place. So we still believe that the 2020 school year can still be rescued.
Thank you very much. That is Elijah Mhlanga, spokesperson for basic education. And one thing I know about teachers, they are organised people. So if anyone can organise through a lockdown to keep learning going on, it is certainly them. But some very disturbing news that Mr. Mhlanga told us about. News just coming in from the northwest that 7 schools this evening, they're getting reports. 7 more schools in the northwest now have been vandalised, making the point that with 25,000 schools around the country, they simply can't secure them all. They are reliant on the community to raise the alarm if they see a school is being looted.